Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings of Allah to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. The topic is what Al-Quran says about the vision or the dream of Ibrahim or Abraham, peace be upon him. That's the topic. This concept of Ibrahim vision or Abraham vision or the dream or with his son, in relation with his son, is all to be found in the Bible with a different context. But since it has this similarity, I will be discussing and comparing the biblical understanding of the dream or what Abraham was asked to do so, and as well as what the Quran has to say. I'll be doing a comparison between Bible and Quran. You are going to hear what was the dream that Ibrahim saw, number one. What is the interpretation of the dream as mentioned in the Quran? And then how did Ibrahim fulfill the dream? And you will also hear the family of Ibrahim, peace be upon him. Who was his family? His sons and his wife and so on. And also you will hear what is the religion of Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and who are the enemies of the religion of Ibrahim, peace be upon him. This is the mainstream or the lecture you're going to hear. With the comparison of the Bible, of course, where it is deemed necessary, I have also quoted the reference of the Bible to have a comparative view. Now coming to this word dream, in the world today, as well as in the Quran, this dream, whenever a person sees a dream in his sleep, he sees something in the dream, a narration or an event. Whatever you saw or whatever we see in the dream is not literal in the real life. That can never be. So there are people in science and there are people in the world who are trying to interpret the dreams. Whatever the dream is, you must know the interpretation of the dream. They are in a form or an event or narration, but they are not literal. Whatever you see in the dream is not real in life. Some people misunderstand. They think whatever we see in the dream, it has to do something in real life. And they take it exactly as it is. So in the Quran, there is no such thing as exactly the same. We require an interpretation, and for that there are at least 5 dreams mentioned in the Quran, 5 dreams. And Yusuf, peace be upon him, was a messenger prophet of Allah who was given the knowledge how to interpret the events and the dreams. He had the knowledge. So this is how you will hear that the dreams are always interpreted. And in Surah Yusuf, you will see there are 4 dreams mentioned in Surah Yusuf. And in the dream you will see, I will give you a few references on my own words, that Yusuf alayhi salam, peace be upon him, saw a dream of 11 stars and a sun and a moon prostrating to him. Now can you imagine stars or planets? Yusuf alayhi salam saw planets, 11 planets, and moon and the sun prostrating for him. He saw in the dream. But in his real life, we see in the same Surah Yusuf that in real life, his parents were exalted on the throne. That's the interpretation. Nothing to do with the moons and his parents were exalted on the throne, and the brothers prostrated to Yusuf, peace be upon him. That's one dream. The second, there are 2 dreams of 2 young men. One man narrates a dream to Yusuf, peace be upon him, that some bread is on his head. One man is pressing intoxicants or the wine. He's pressing that. And for that, Yusuf, peace be upon him, told that you will be giving wine to your Lord, or I mean to the king or the Lord. The other man saw that there was a bird, and on the head there's a bird sitting and eating from the bread from his head. So he said, you will be hanged on the cross. That's the interpretation. So then another king saw a dream that there are 7 lean cows eating to the fat cows, 7 fat cows. And then there were 7 years they had to cultivate the land and save it for 7 other dreadful years where they have no food, so they have to eat. This is, what I'm trying to say. There are 5 dreams, 4 I've told you, and one is that one referring to Muhammad, peace be upon him, that he saw in his dream few people were against him, and in real life there are many people who were against him. So Allah showed him little. So what I'm trying to convey here is that dreams have interpretations. Whatever you see in the dream is not real in life. So that is the important factor I want to emphasize. And that Yusuf al-Islam was given the knowledge of the dreams. Now, if coming to the topic, what the Quran says about the vision or the dream of Ibrahim, peace be upon him, first I will read certain attributes given to Ibrahim, peace be upon him. If you go to the first page, in Surah Hud 11, Ayah 75, Halim, forbearing and tolerant, Awwahun, sighing and wailing, 1175, Munib, deputy, and Surah Al Imran 3, Ayah 67, Hanifam, Muslima, true Muslim, Surah Al Baqarah 2, Ayah 130, Minas Salihin, from the righteous ones or from the correct ones, Surah Nahl 16, Ayah 120, Ummatan Qanita, devout nation, Surah Maryam 19, Ayah 41, Siddiqan Nabiyya, the true prophet, Surah Al-Baqarah 2, Ayah 124, Linnasi Imama, Ibrahim al-Islam is the leader for mankind, Surah Mumtahinna 60, Ayah 4, Uswatun Hasana, the most beautiful pattern to follow, Ibrahim al-Islam, peace be upon him, Surah Hajj 22, Ayah 78, Millata Abikum Ibrahim, it is the religion of your father Ibrahim. Surah Al Imran 3 and Ayah 97, Ayatum Bayyinatum Maqamu Ibrahim. Clear ayahs is the standing place or position of Ibrahim, peace be upon him. Al-Baqarah 2 and Ayah 125, وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى. You take the place of salah, prayer, from the standing position of Ibrahim. These are the standing or the honor of Ibrahim, peace be upon him, Abraham, peace be upon him, in the following ayahs. Now we'll see what the dream is and how Allah described. Before coming to the dream, I will read an ayah that will relate what was the status, one of the status as mentioned in the Quran with Ibrahim, peace be upon him. Surah Al-Baqarah 2 and ayah 1 to 4. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا قَالَ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ أَحَدِ الظَّالِمِينَ. And when his Lord put Ibrahim to trial with words, then he completed them. He said, surely I am making you an imam, leader for mankind. He said, and from my offsprings, he said, my promise will not reach the oppressors. In this ayah, Ibrahim alayhi salam, or Abraham, peace be upon him, was put to trial by the Lord, put to trial by his Lord with words. Now the Quran is how Allah put to trial to mankind is through his words. These Quran, Arabic text, are the words of Allah. Once you understand the words, you understand the spirit and the essence of the message of Allah, then you understand, then you obey and follow. So by the words you are being put to trial. Allah himself is directly communicating to man through his words. And this is how Allah try mankind, by his words. So once you understand the essence of the message of the words, then you have to follow. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, peace be upon him, was tried by the words. And in those words is the essence of the message of Allah. So he completed them, meaning he completed whatever the message was given to him. He completed them. So Allah said, I will make you the Imam or the leader for all mankind. The leader of mankind of all times. Ibrahim or Abraham, peace be upon him, of all human race on this planet Earth. So immediately Ibrahim, peace be upon him, asked Allah, Qala wa min dhurriyati. He said, and from my offsprings, Allah said, he said, my promise will not reach the oppressors. So once the status was given to Ibrahim as the Imam or the leader for all mankind, he asked Allah to have the similar status to his offsprings. So Allah says, he will give the Imam or the leadership among his offsprings, but it will not reach the people who are oppressors. So there are people who are the offsprings of Abraham, peace be upon him, who are oppressors also. And there are people who are followers of Ibrahim alayhi salam. They are true Muslims, submitters. We'll see in the ayahs. So Allah says, my promise will reach among the offsprings of the Ibrahim, peace be upon him, as the leader to those who are followers of Ibrahim, peace be upon him. And those who do not follow, Allah will not, the promise will not reach to the oppressors, meaning the Imam or the leadership will not be given to those who are oppressors in the world. Now, from the moment Ibrahim, peace be upon him, came to know that the imamat or the leadership is given in his offsprings also, so he says in Surah As-Safat 37, 100 and 101, Rabbi habli minas salihin. O my Lord, grant me from the correct ones. فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. So we gave him the good news of a tolerant, forbearing boy. Now Ibrahim alayhi salam, you must know that Ibrahim, peace be upon him, got the status of Imam, the leader. He's asking a similar status for among his offsprings. So he asked Allah, grant me from the righteous ones, or those who correct, who amend their lives. So Allah said, we gave him the good news of a tolerant and a forbearing boy. And we'll see who is this person. Now in Surah Maryam 19 and Ayah 54, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِسْمَاعِيلَ إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَادِقَ الْوَعْدِ وَكَانَ رَسُولًا نَبِيًّا. And remember Ismail in the book. Surely he was truthful of the promise and he was a messenger prophet. Now this boy, the good news was given of a tolerant boy, Allah says, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِسْمَاعِيلَ. And remember in the book about Ismail Islam, peace be upon him. إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَادِقَ الْوَعْدِ. Surely he was a truthful prophet. وَكَانَ رَسُولًا نَبِيًّا. And he was a messenger and a prophet. Now we are reading this ayat. What we have to find out, what is the promise that Ismail, peace be upon him, fulfilled? What is the promise? What Ismail Islam fulfilled? If you read further in Surah, coming back to page number 4 and 5, As-Safat 37 and Ayah 102. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعُ السَّعْيَ قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. And when he reached to make an effort with him or endeavor with him, he said, O my son, surely I saw in the sleep that I am slaughtering you. So view it what you see. He said, O my father, do what you are being ordered. then you will find me, if Allah wills, from those who have patience. In this ayah, the dream, you can see the dream. You can see the dream. When this son reached an age of where he can do some efforts and do endeavor with him, so Ibrahim alayhi salam saw a dream. And the dream was, in the dream, remember this, قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ. Surely I see in the dream that I am slaughtering you. In the dream. Then he asked his son, view it. You also see it. When I'm narrating to you, view it, and what you see. فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. So the son says, قَالَ يَا أَبَتِ افْعَلْ مَا تُؤْمَرْ. He said, do what you are being ordered. سَتَجِدُنِي إِنشَاءَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الصَّابِرِينَ. Surely if Allah wills, you will find me those who have patience. Now, Ibrahim alayhi salam sees the dream, and in the dream he saw that I am slaughtering, physical slaughtering of the son. That's in the dream. Remember. And then he asked his son, what is your view? What would you do if you are in that position that I am slaughtering you? So he said, whatever Allah has ordered you, you do go ahead with it. I'll have patience of whatever. Then you'll find me, if Allah wills, for those who have patience. So this is the promise of Ismail alayhi salam to his father. This is, Allah says in the first ayat I read, إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَادِقَ الْوَعْدِ, that he was truthful of his promise. So here in the Quran doesn't give the name, but we know that this is the promise that Ismail salam said, whatever Allah do what you are being ordered, then you will find me, if Allah wills, from those who have patience. Now before I read further, I would like to have a comparative view here, because first of all you must know that this what I read is the Quranic concept, and in the Quran Ibrahim alayhi salam saw a dream, and in that dream he was slaughtering the son. You must know this. Now let us see what the Bible has to say to have a comparative view. Genesis 16 and verse 12. Now this is the narration about Ismail. That's the way the Christians say. He, Ismail, will be a wild man. In the Quran he is a tolerant, forbearing son. In the Bible he is a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. This is the status of the Bible, that he will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every hand, meaning he will be fighting all over, which the Quran doesn't say a word of like that. So you can choose and pick what the Bible has to say and what the Quran has to say. Now I am narrating the description of the event, the similar event, of what the Bible has to say about Abraham and his son. In Genesis 22 verse 9 and 10, and they came to the place which God had told him of. Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. This is, the altar of the wood, where you can put some wood on it and make us like, where you can lay down Isaac and his hands are bound. In the Bible, Isaac is mentioned. And Abraham took a knife, stretched forth his hand, and took a knife to slay his son. I am reading the Bible to educate you this concept about taking a knife to slaughter his son, because in the Bible God ordered to slaughter the son. In the Quran he saw a dream. It's not real, it's a dream. But here in the Bible it's an order, and now so Abraham took a knife and put his hand on, took a knife to slay his son. So God said, and he said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God, seeing you have not withheld thy son, thy only son, from me. Now the moment he wanted to slaughter, so God intervened. He says to Abraham, do not slaughter your son, for now I know that you are ready to kill your son because I ordered you. That means you want to even kill your son, even if I ordered. And believe me, the Quran very categorically says, do not kill your children. Do not kill your children means do not kill. So he will not give a false test by going his own law. When he said, do not kill your children, then how would he say that you slaughter your son? It's not logical. So in the biblical terms, he says that God wanted to know that you are ready to even kill your own son because I ordered. And now don't kill it. And look further, and in verse 13, and Abraham lifted upon his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his thorns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him for the burnt offering instead of his son. This is redemption or ransom. This ram was slaughtered instead of his son. Instead of his son, he slaughtered the ram, and ram was there. This is a biblical concept of slaughtering and what to do. This is a biblical concept. Now coming back to the same Quranic ayahs, we'll see Surah Safat 37:103. فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَ وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ. When both submitted, and he, Ibrahim, elevated him for the front. Now, when he saw in the dream Abraham was slaughtering his son, and the son was ready to be slaughtered, what happened? They both submitted. Who? Ibrahim. Here, he didn't took a knife and wanted to slaughter. There is no mention in the Quran he took a knife and wanted to slaughter his son. There is not mention in the Quran. Both submitted, meaning they understood the message, what was said to him in the dream. What the dream was that he wanted to slaughter or sacrifice his son. So falamma aslama, they both, Abraham, Ismail or Ismail, both submitted. Watallahu lil jabin, and Ibrahim elevated him for the front. Elevated means in English language raised to a higher place or position of his rank or spiritual level. That's a elevation. To promote, exalt on a higher level in some respect. Now, you must understand that what the dream is that Ibrahim, peace be upon him, wanted an offspring who would be an imam, the leader like him. So Allah showed Ibrahim, peace be upon him, a dream, and in the dream he was slaughtering the son. So now actually he did not slaughter the son in the real life. We'll see what happens in the, but what I'm trying to sum up is that he did not slaughter, but they both submitted, and he elevated his son. He elevated his son for the front, he brought him in front of the public, in front of people. Now what will happen, that you will note in the Quran, the interpretation is not mentioned here directly. The word interpretation is not mentioned in any part of the Quranic ayahs. But you will note in the Quran that Allah himself explained what is the interpretation of the dream. When I will read the ayat, we'll come to know. For example, Al-Baqarah 2 and ayah 125. وَإِذْ جَعَلْنَا الْبَيْتَ مَثَابَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَأَمْنًا وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَّقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلًّى وَعَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ أَن طَهِرَا بَيْتِيَ لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْعَاكِفِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. And when we made the house a place of reward and safety or security for people, and you take the place of salah, prayer, from the standing place or position of Ibrahim, and we took a pact, a covenant with Ibrahim and Ismail, that both of you should purify my house for those who go round, and those who intend upon, and those who bow prostrate. In this ayah, you will note that the house is for the Kaaba or the house of Allah is for safety and security, made for mankind, a place of reward. And there is to take the place of salah, prayer, from the standing position of Ibrahim. But here, this is the important aspect. وَعَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ أَن طَهِرَا بَيْتِيَ. That we took a pact or covenant with Abraham and Ismail, that both of you purify my house